So, if you've followed Power BI at all over the past year, maybe 2 years at this point, you'll know about visual calculations. But I haven't seen a lot of people using them in real world scenarios. Today, I want to show you a real world example of where visual calculations are substantially easier. And I'm going to do it using the dashboard that I built this past week. So here we are in the dashboard. And yes, I know I've milked this dashboard for content, but it took me a really long time to make. So I only have one more video planned, and that'll be it. But the visual that we're going to be talking about are these two right here. And as you can see, I'm using some custom formatting in the bars of the bar chart to turn the bar with the highest value blue. Now, in the dashboard that I ended up submitting to Microsoft, because by the way, if you don't know, this is the dashboard that I submitted to Microsoft's World Championship competition, used a measure to do this. So, in with this value in particular, if we go and we look, it used a measure called largest fire cause color. And what I ended up having to do was essentially summarize all the fire causes by take a count. So use a table expression here, and then take a max out of that fire account. And then essentially, if the value in the graph equals the max value of the summarized table, to then return that color. Now, this is some, I would say maybe not really complex DAX, but it's complex DAX. Now, before I had written that measure, I'd actually done it with a visual calc, and it's a lot easier with a visual calc. Unfortunately, when I went to go submit it and go publish to the web and embed, the visual calculation didn't quite work. And that's because the visual calculation with conditional formatting is a preview feature. But I want to juxtapose that DAX measure and how complex that was to the visual calc version, just to show you how impactful visual calculations can be in removing model clutter, but also speeding up your dashboard. So let's take a look at the version of this dashboard that I had built where I was doing it using a visual calc. Okay, so here we are in pretty much the exact same dashboard, only it uses a visual calc to do that formatting. As you can see, there's no measure over here, and there is this little eye mark saying that, hey, some fields are hidden from the visual, open visual calculations editing mode to view them. So when we go and we edit into visual calculation editing mode, what you'll notice is that I have a hidden visual calculation here called highlight color. And when we take a look at that, all I'm doing is I'm essentially saying, hey, order by this column, take the first row, and if it equals, basically if the max equals, then return 1, else return 0. So what does this look like without the if statement? Well, let's take a look, right? There we go. It's returning 130 because 130 is the max, right? And then I'm just essentially saying, hey, if the value, so if the max equals the column value, right, then return 1, else return 0. Then when I go back into the formatting for this bar graph, you'll see that I'm using an FX. And if I go into this FX under rules, I basically am setting to my hidden visual calculation field called highlight color. And it's saying if value equals 1, then blue, else return gray. Now, I did try to return a string with essentially the color, and it wasn't letting me do that. And so what I mean is, like, if I tried to select field value and then essentially go, okay, I want to return highlight color, it wasn't letting me do that for this expression. I don't totally know why, or I didn't bother to dig in. Realistically, that's probably user error, right? In order to do this, Power BI expects a string. I was probably doing something that was either causing it to return multiple values or something like that. But if you take a look at this, this is a much simpler model. First of all, I don't have a bunch of random UI measures over here. But second of all, this report is going to run a lot faster because when you use a visual calculation, it only calculates with the data already in the visual. So instead of having to build a calculated table like how I did in my first one, where it was looping over 207 rows, all this visual calculation is having to do is essentially loop over the three values, one for lightning, human, and unknown, that's in this table. So, all of you bright data minds, you tell me, what do you think is more effective and more resource efficient? Looping over 200 rows with every single fire, or looping over just the three in the graph? It's just going to be the three in the graph. So that's it. That's it for today. If you want to go over to the Microsoft Fabric community and give this dashboard that I built a thumbs up, and I would really appreciate it. And if you're interested in learning more about myself, you can go follow me on LinkedIn. Both the link to this dashboard and my LinkedIn are down in the video description. Then I hate to be a beggar, but if you subscribed and could give this video a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. I hope you have a good night.